Hi, my name is Hannah and I run Beyond the Studio Pilates. Beyond the Studio Pilates is a website that gives you access to on-demand Pilates classes that you can do from wherever you are, whenever you like. I also run Pilates retreats to Wales and run sports-specific masterclasses for cyclists, runners and swimmers. Pilates is a fantastic all-over body workout. It works on muscle balance, functional movement and flexibility. It's really great for cyclists because although in cycling we predominantly use our legs, your trunk is stabilising you on the bike and driving the power into your legs through your hips. So we're going to work on our core muscles and our back during the next 6 exercises. So the next 6 exercises I'm going to take you through are going to work on the problem areas that cyclists tend to find they have issues in. So we're going to look at our hips, our backs and our hamstrings. So now I'm going to take you through the dart. This is a really good exercise for building strength in your neck flexors and your back, which is going to help maintain a really good position on the bike. So we're going to start on our fronts. You're going to bring your head down onto a cushion so you're not squishing your nose into the floor, and bring your hands so they're next to your sides. Then thinking about engaging those core muscles, so pulling your belly button towards your spine, holding this bottom position. We're going to take an inhale. Then we're going to exhale. Bring your head, neck and shoulders off the floor, and then just bring your palms so they're facing your legs. Hold at the top for an inhale. And then exhale. Slowly bring yourself back to the mat. Holding at the bottom for an inhale. Keep thinking belly button to spine, core engaged. Exhale, slowly coming back up. Making sure you keep your neck nice and long, so don't bring your head up. Think about having a nice long neck. Holding it here for an inhale. And then exhale, slowly back to the floor. Final 2. And then we're going to bring our hands under our shoulders and push yourself back into your child's pose, just to release it off in the other direction. Holding it here for an inhale. And exhale. And then coming back to sitting. So this exercise is called the Clam. It's really good for maintaining good hip activation, and it's going to help with stability when you're pedaling. So thinking about having equal pressure through each hip down into your pedal. So we're going to start on our side, and you're going to need to just bring your arm under your head so that your head is supported and your neck is in alignment, making sure your hip and shoulder are in a line, and then you're going to pull your ribs down towards your hips, engaging that rectus abdominis, and bring your belly button towards your spine, engaging the rest of those core muscles. Top hand comes down in front, and then we're just going to push an imaginary heavy object off the top of that thigh, lifting up, holding at the top for a count of 2, and then slowly, with control, bringing that leg back down. Keeping your hips stacked one on top of the other, pushing that heavy object off the top of your leg, holding at the top for a count of 2, and then slowly, with control, bringing that leg back down. Keep thinking belly button to spine, core stays engaged. We're going to do 2 more on this side. Holding at the top, and then slowly lowering back down. Core engaged, think belly button to spine. Keep those hips nice and stable. Final one on this side, and then slowly lowering back down. Then we're going to move on to our other side. So again, making sure your shoulder and hip are in a line. Arm underneath your head so that you keep your neck in alignment. Core engaged, pull your ribs down towards your hips, and then you're just pushing that heavy object off the top of your leg, holding at the top for a count of 2, and then slowly releasing it back down. Keep those hips stacked one on top of the other, ankles glued together. Core engaged. Now if you did have a resistance band, you could put a resistance band round your legs, and that's just going to add in a little bit more work and a little bit more of a challenge to this exercise. Final 2 here, core engaged, pushing that heavy object off the top of your leg. And final one. And then bringing it back down and coming back up to sitting. So this move is called shoulder bridge, and it's one of my favorites. It's really good for stretching out through your quads and building strength in those hamstrings and glutes, which is going to help with power efficiency into that pedal stroke. So we're going to start lying on our backs. Going to bring your feet together and then take your heels out, toes come out to meet them. Knees are staying in line with your hips and toes. If you find that your knees collapse in, you can just place a little cushion between them and then bring your heels in so they're at the same distance apart, so you're not putting any added pressure on your knees. Core engaged, think about pulling your belly button towards your spine, pulling your ribs down towards your hips. Arms just resting on the floor. We're going to take an inhale here. Then you're going to exhale and tilt your pelvis and slowly roll up one vertebrae at a time. When you get to the top of your bridge, you should be in like a ski slope position, squeezing those glutes, keep your hips lifted, weight is in your shoulders, not in your neck, holding it here for an inhale. And then exhale, slowly with control, rolling down one vertebrae at a time, keeping your pelvis up for as long as you can. When you get down to the bottom, you're going to roll into your neutral spine position. Take an inhale here, and then exhale, slowly roll back up into your bridge, making sure your hips are lifted, rib to hip connection. So make sure you're not bringing your ribs up so they're pointing at the ceiling. You're bringing your ribs down so they're connected to your hips, holding it here for an inhale. And then exhale, slowly with control, bringing yourself back down. Now, to make this a little bit more challenging, we're going to lift a heel this time. So core engaged, taking an inhale and then exhale, rolling back up into your bridge. Holding at the top. I want you to imagine you've got a spirit level on your hips, and you're going to keep the bubble in the middle as you lift a heel and then slowly push it back into the floor. Lift the other heel, slowly push it back into the floor. Now, as you lift and then lower your heel, make sure you don't drop a hip. So think about keeping those hips level, and lift and then slowly lower. Going to add one more heel lift into each side. Then take an inhale at the top, and then exhale, slowly coming down one vertebrae at a time. Nice, slow, controlled movement back to the floor. Holding at the bottom for another inhale, and then exhale, back up into your bridge, core engaged, making sure your hips are lifted and then pushing those heels back into the floor, keeping your hips level as you go. One more heel lift on each side. Then taking an inhale, and then exhale, bringing each vertebrae back to the mat, one at a time. Pelvis stays up for as long as possible. And from here, you're going to take your legs out long and just give yourself a full body stretch. And then come back up to sitting. This next exercise is called swimming. It's really good for building core strength and back strength. This is going to help you with a better position on the bike, keeping you stable on the bike for longer so you can ride further and faster. We're going to start in the 4-point kneeling position. So if you find this uncomfortable on your wrist, you can either use the towel or roll up your mat so you've got a little bit of cushioning under those wrists. You're bringing your wrist to under your shoulder, knee to under your hip, tilting your pelvis so your tailbone is pointing off towards whatever is behind you. Cores engaged, so pulling that belly button towards your spine. Holding this position, eye line stays down at the floor. We're taking an inhale here. Then we're going to exhale and slowly stretch one arm forward. Holding it here, really reaching through your fingers. And then we're going to slowly return it to its starting position, making sure you're putting your wrist down under your shoulder, holding it here for an inhale. And then exhale, sliding the other arm forward, really stretching through that arm, keeping your core engaged, thinking about pulling your belly button towards your spine and then slowly bringing that arm back in. Holding in the middle for another inhale and then exhale, other arm. Keep your eye line down to the floor, so you're looking between your hands, placing your hand down really lightly, so there should be no movement as you bring that arm back to the floor. You're keeping your trunk nice and stable. Holding in the middle, we're now going to do 2 on each leg, so core engaged, sliding one foot out behind you along the floor. Once you get that leg so that it's extended, we're going to stretch up and just stretch through your toe. Careful you don't hip hitch, so don't lift your hip higher. Think about your hips staying level, core engaged, and then we're going to slowly lower that leg to the floor and bring it back in. Again, placing that knee under your hip. There should be no movement as you bring that leg down to the floor. Taking an inhale in the middle, and then exhale, sliding the other leg out along the floor and then stretching it as you lift it up. So thinking about the length that you can create, not the height. Taking an inhale here, exhale, slowly lowering and bringing that knee back into under your hip. Again, as you put that foot down, there should be no rocking to that side. One more on each leg, core engaged. Think about pulling your shoulder blades down your back as you stretch that leg out and pull it up. Holding it here and then slowly lower and returning that knee back to under your hip. Final time, core engaged, think belly button to spine. Stretching out through that leg, hold it here. Eye line stays down between your hands and then bring that leg down and back in. Okay, so you could do more of that, but we're going to move on to the next level. But if you don't feel quite ready for this, you can always stick with just using your arms and your legs. You don't need to move on if you're not quite ready for it. So the next level would be slowly stretching that arm and leg out and then lifting them up. Careful that your leg isn't higher than your arm, so try and keep them at the same height. Really stretch out through your fingertips and through your toes, bring them back to the floor and then replace them to their original position, taking an inhale in the middle. Exhale, slowly taking the other side out, stretching out through that arm and leg. Careful with that hip again, make sure your hips stay level. Holding for an inhale. Exhale, back to the mat and then sliding them back into position. When you put that arm and leg down, careful there's no movement, so think about those core muscles, keep your trunk nice and still. One more to each side like this, taking an inhale and then exhale. Stretching that arm and leg up, trying to make yourself longer. Then bringing them back to the floor and then slowly back to the middle. Core engaged, final pair, stretching out through that arm and leg and then lifting them up. Holding it here for an inhale and then exhale, back down and back in. Okay, next we're going to do a little curl. So this is really good for challenging your coordination and also your balance. So we're going to stretch out through that arm and leg. Pick them up, stretching through your fingers and toes again, and then this time you're going to curl yourself into the middle. So you're bringing your elbow and your knee together in the middle. Bring your head down to meet your knee, holding it here for an inhale. Then we're going to exhale. Slowly push yourself back out. Bring your head back up. Make sure you're not still looking down towards your knees, stretching out through that arm and leg. And then we're going to bring them back to the floor and back in to the middle. Just check in with your position. Make sure your wrist is under your shoulder, knee is under your hip. Sliding out through the other side. Lift and stretch, hold, and then slowly curling yourself into the middle, holding in the middle. And then exhale, sliding back out, really stretching through that arm and leg, back to the floor and back into the middle. One more on each side, core engaged, stretching out, lifting that arm and leg, hold it there, think belly button to spine, then curling yourself into the middle, holding in the middle, and then exhale, stretching out through that arm and leg, keep that core engaged, back to the floor and back to the start. Final time. Core engaged, eye line stays down at the floor, stretching out through the arm and leg, and then sliding them back into the middle, curling yourself up into a tiny ball, holding, and then stretching back out through that arm and leg, back to the floor, and back to the middle. So this next move is called hamstring stretch, and as you might have guessed, it's going to stretch out your hamstrings, which are a real problem area for us cyclists. So we're going to start on our backs. Now, if you haven't got a resistance band, you can always use an inner tube that works as a really good resistance band, or a pair of tights would do. So you're coming onto your back and then you're going to loop your band around your foot. Now it's important that the band is on the back of your foot, so around your heel and not around your toe. Then you're going to bring that leg in so you can feel that stretch in the body of the muscle, holding it there for me. Now this is a developmental stretch, so we're going to hold it for roughly 30 seconds and then we're going to develop it a little bit for a bit longer. So holding there a little bit longer, feeling that stretch in the body of your muscle. And then you're going to point your toe at your face and see if you can bring it a little bit closer, and we're going to hold it there for 20 seconds. Then from here, you're going to place the band into your left hand. Guide that leg over to the left-hand side of your body. You should now feel that stretch in the outside of your leg, holding it there. If you get a fizzy foot, you've taken it too far, just let it off a little bit. Holding it there. Again, we're developing this stretch, so trying to make the muscle longer. So holding it for roughly 30 seconds and then roughly another 20 seconds. So just bringing it a little bit closer. Then coming back to the middle, you're going to place the band into your right hand and let the leg fall out to the right hand side. Now it's really important that your left hip doesn't roll with it. So your left hip has to stay on the floor and you're just holding that leg there. And then just seeing if you can just hold it there a little bit longer, maybe lower it just a little bit further. Then bringing that leg back to the middle. If you are using a resistance band, you're going to open that band up and place your other foot in it. If not, just looping your inner tube around your other foot. Other foot comes back to flat on the floor, and then you're just pulling that leg in so you can feel that stretch in the body of the muscle, holding it there for me. Then pointing your toe at your face, see if you can bring it a little bit closer. Again, if you get a fizzy foot, you've gone too far, let it off a little bit. And then guiding that leg over to the right hand side, holding it there, feeling that stretch in the outside of your leg. See if you can hold it there, just pull it a little bit closer to your face, hold it there a bit longer. And then you're going to bring that leg over to the left hand side, place the band into your left hand and let that leg fall out to the left again. Careful that right hip doesn't roll off the floor, keep your right hip on the floor, holding it there for me. And just holding it there a little bit longer. And then bringing that leg back to the middle, taking the band off your foot and giving yourself a full body stretch. And then coming back up to sitting. This next stretch is called back stretch, and it's really good for releasing tension in your hips, back and shoulders. We're going to start lying on our backs. And then you're going to bring your ankles together, core engaged. So think about pulling that belly button towards your spine. You're going to bring your arms out to the side. So your fingertips are in line with your shoulders. From here, you're going to bring your knees into your chest. And then you're going to slowly, with control, lower your knees to the side. Holding it there until your shoulder blades kind of relax into the floor and lower back releases. And then you're just going to take your legs out long. So your feet and fingertips are kind of in a line, holding it there for me. Just making sure you're breathing into your stretches. And then we're going to just bend those legs. And then using your core muscles, you're just going to bring your legs back to the middle. Hold in the middle for an inhale. And then exhale, bring your knees into your chest and roll to the other side. Holding it there, let those shoulder blades release off, lower back releases. And then just straightening your legs out so they come in line with your hands, holding it here, breathing into your stretch. Then bring your feet back in, and then use those core muscles to bring your legs back to the middle. Taking yourself into your full body stretch, and then coming back up to sitting. Thanks for joining me for today's workout. I hope you found it really beneficial. Try adding these Pilates exercises into your training 2 to 3 times a week and see the difference that Pilates can make to your cycling performance. If you would like more exercises that you can do that will help with your cycling, come and find me on Instagram and Facebook at Beyond the Studio Pilates. Take care for now, and I hope to see you on a mat very soon.